Let's bring in Kentucky Congressman James Comer, chair of the House Oversight Committee. So, Congressman, what I was describing, remember the Tarmac case when the Attorney General, then Attorney General, was met on the tarmac by Bill Clinton talking about a case that he shouldn't have been talking to her about. I mean, he may say it had nothing to do with Hunter Biden's case, but kind of hard to believe that didn't enter into the conversation, right?
It's very hard to believe, and I have no reason to believe much of anything Joe Biden said after I've been investigating him for about a year and a half now. The number of lies that he's told pertaining to his family is almost immeasurable. So when you look at what happened with the Clintons there, and Obama and Biden with respect to conflicts of interest, the rules don't apply to the ruling class. That's what it seems to me, and rules only apply to Republicans, I guess, when it pertains to ethics and the rules of the judiciary.
Well, and it also reminds us of how the DOJ has gotten involved in other cases, or seemingly so. I mean, in the Bragg case that we're trying now in New York, you have I think it was the number 3 man, and DOJ came down to New York to become an assistant prosecutor, which was a big step down for him in order to adjudicate the case. Clearly, he had the interests of the Biden administration in his mind. Then you have the Fani Willis assistant slash lover who had several meetings with the White House about that case down in Georgia. So it seems that very often the White House directly is influencing the DOJ. That's what it looks like from here.
And it looks like that to most Americans. I think that's what most Americans see when they see all the conflicts of interest with all these prosecutors going after Joe Biden's political opposition. There are so many conflicts of interest, and we all know that justice is supposed to be fair and balanced, and the judge is blindfolded. The jury listens and rules with their intent after hearing all the evidence. But what you see with Biden is that handpicking the prosecutors, having media spin false narratives, having press conferences to spin, to intimidate, to obstruct. And I think the Americans are seeing through this. And I think a lot of people in America that traditionally vote Democrat that have felt like they've been victims of an unfair judicial process, or members of their family have been victims in an unfair judiciary. I think they're going to vote for Trump this time because they see Joe Biden abusing his power. And
I know the media hates this when people do it, and the conservatives do it. But the fact is that if this was Donald Trump interfering with cases outside the direct jurisdiction of DOJ, what do you think would happen?
They'd throw the book to Trump. Yeah. They'd throw the book to anyone in Trump's orbit. You Look at what we found with respect to the Biden family. If that were the Trump family, can you imagine? They would already be in prison. And it's just not fair. We've seen this two-tier system of justice, but it's relating to the average American that feels like they've been wronged in an unfair judiciary. I think people are rising up, and they're going to send the Bidens a message this fall. And I think this whole attempt to try to jail their political opposition has backfired very badly on the Biden re-election campaign.
We're going to talk about that with a panel, but what about the Bragg case in particular? You see a judge who clearly seems to be favoring the prosecution in this case over the defense. I mean, you don't have to necessarily be from the other side of the political spectrum, but to see that. But do you think that the jury is going to be aware of that, because they don't know what the law is like? And if there are certain instructions that they get from a judge who's biased, that could taint the decision of this jury.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope that the jury sees that. I think every American that's watching this trial sees that. Every person I've spoke with, especially my colleagues who have spent a day in court sitting behind Donald Trump, have said the same thing. It's very obvious to everyone in the room. And I know that there are a lot of people concerned about any Republican, much less Donald Trump, getting a fair trial in a city that's as big a Democrat city as New York City. But, I'm hoping for the best, and I think that they've overplayed their hand. We still don't know what their prosecuting Donald Trump over. Even CNN analysts are saying they've done a poor job of making their case. So hopefully the jury will see that.
Yeah, well, the CNN crowd, by the way, over the weekend, because they knew the jury was at home during the long Memorial Day weekend, they changed their tune about their skepticism. They were all in for Judge Merchan. I was watching. Congressman, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.